in the previous lesson, we added two new buttons to our form, a login button and a sign up button. And our goal, of course, is for each one of these buttons to move the form into the alternate mode, either the login mode or the registration mode. So what I want to do in this lesson is connect both of our new buttons to their own respective method, and each one of those methods will update the text property to either reflect a state of registration or a state of logging in. So once again, we're going to use state to represent data that changes over time. And in this case, it's going to be the prompting text that we want to show the user somewhere in our form. All right, so let me show you how this is going to work. The first thing I want to do is scroll down to our render method. And previously, we added our click handler to the very bottom button, the one that's in red. And that was just for the sake of example, because that was the only button we had. So for now, I'm going to remove this on-click handler here on line 34. We no longer need that one. But what I am going to do is add click handlers to these two buttons right here. And I want to define those methods up above. So now we have this unused handle click method, which changes the text state property to register. So this is our registration mode, or equivalently our sign up mode. So I'm going to change this method name to handle sign up click. So your method names are up to you, but the way I like to think about it is if I have more than one button on a form, then typically both of those buttons are going to be clickable. So a method name like handle click isn't as descriptive as it is when we only have one button. So now, given that there's going to be two types of clicks, two types of buttons, and two types of methods, I want my method names to be a little bit more descriptive in describing to another developer what it is that they're responsible for. So this method will handle a sign up click, or in other words, handle the user triggering the form into sign up mode. And of course, the alternative mode is the login mode. So I can write a complementary method up above here, and I'm going to call that method handle login click. So now there's that nice kind of parallel naming structure, and we're communicating that these methods are probably similar and they're kind of varying between two different modes. All right, whatever we can do to make our code more descriptive and easily understood by other developers, the better. So we're going to utilize the exact same syntax as we have below. We're going to write our method name, provide an equal sign, then provide the arrow function body. And as a reminder, this will automatically bind the this keyword to correctly be the app component instance, which means it will have access to the setState method automatically and correctly. So here I'm going to once again invoke setState. I'm going to once again provide a JavaScript object, and I still want to target the text property. But of course, whenever the user is in login mode, I want a different text. And here it's going to be login into account. Okay, and you'll notice this text is the exact same as we have on line 7, and that is by design. So the form or the app component, whatever you want to call it, is going to start out in login mode, and this is going to be the value of the text property. Then if the user clicks the sign up button, which we'll hardwire in just a moment, but if the user triggers this method, we're going to change the text state property to register. And then if we run this method, it's going to go back into login into account. So we have to initialize it with some text, but then we're going to be able to go back and forth between these two options. But right now, these methods are defined within our component, but they're not actually wired up to anything in our JSX. So that is the next thing we need to do. So right here, I'm going to scroll down. This is our login button, the blue one on the left. So on this one, I'm going to add once again our onClick prop/attribute, provide the equal sign and the curly braces, and then I'm going to provide the reference to one of our two methods above. So that is available on the this keyword, and our method is called handle login click. And it should look like so at the end. And once again, because we used this arrow function syntax, we know that the this keyword is bound correctly, so this should work. Once again, make sure you don't accidentally invoke the method. We are not providing that because that would be providing the return value of that method to the onClick handler. The onClick handler needs the reference to the actual function or method, the uninvoked procedure that will be run, that will be executed when the user clicks on this button. So it's code that will run at some point in the future. It's not the return value of the existing method. So on the button right here, we're going to repeat the exact same logic. At the very end here, I'm going to add onClick, provide the equal sign and the curly braces. And this time I'm going to reference this, that handle sign up click, and the code will look like this. So now each one of our buttons has its own corresponding method that's going to update the text property. And we're still utilizing the text property right here as the button text of our third button, the right button on the right. So now as we switch between our different forms, our different modes, you're going to see that the button text is going to update to reflect what process the user is going to undertake whenever they submit the form. And of course, we don't have any of our inputs or anything like that, but already we're starting to move in that direction of having two different versions of the form. So this is all saved, and we can take a look at how this works. So when everything loads on the right-hand side, we are in login mode, and thus our text property is set to log into account, and that's what we're seeing right here in red. But when I click sign up right here, that's going to run the handle sign up click method, which is going to update the text property to be register. And because we updated our component using set state, the component will re-render, and now text right here on line 43 will be register. And that's exactly what we see. Then if we switch back into login mode right here, our button text is going to go back into log into account. And now I can click between these two buttons. And it's not really, different modes. It's just kind of a different piece of text that we're updating. But already we are simulating that kind of experience for the user where the form has two submission options, right? There's two ways to interact with it, and the user can choose what mode they want to be in. And immediately with the button text here, we are communicating that difference. So now this single component is moving in the direction of being able to serve both of these two different purposes. All right, and once again, we're getting it all done in a single component by utilizing the concept of state, which is simply data that changes over the course of the component's existence. So pretty cool stuff. All right, that's all there's to cover in this lesson, so I will see you in the next one.